Hello everyone, this is Psycho, and today we'll be breaking down the balance changes and its effects on the meta. After dominating rank for a whole season, this gun has received multiple nerfs, including a minor nerf to its movement, decreasing it by 0.11 milliseconds. A slightly bigger nerf to its race and drop time, which was above average before, but will now be more in line with other LMGs. However, the significant nerf is the nerf to its bullet impact, which was quite high before and has been decreased to 1.05 from 1.3. This nerf is more impactful if you are challenging mid to long ranges and SMGs, making this gun worse for competitive play. The recommended builds remain the same. A nerf to aggressive players with the MG42 comes in the form of increased BSA using the rapid fire barrel and recoil booster attachments. These were previously quite strong for an aggressive playstyle with this gun, however the nerfs effectively kill this approach. This also nerfs sniper support build for MG42 and BR, decreasing effective range, but it will still be a top tier option in both Battle Royale and multiplayer. The GOAT, the LWT Tundra, finally got a well-deserved nerf after being the top sniper by far for quite a few seasons. Even after some nerfs, it was fairly dominant, but now it has been hit with another slight nerf. The ADS speed has been adjusted, taking 500 milliseconds instead of the previous 480 milliseconds. It will still be faster and better than most other snipers, but it will open a space for more niche snipers such as the Koshka and the ZRG. Here's the recommended build for it. One of the worst things about the BKM, switch speed, was finally buffed. It's around a 10%, that is around 0.26 seconds, increase in speed, which will make it easier to move around with, making perks like Amped not much of a necessity. Combined with the last season's 3-shot ability buff, this is a very strong LMG for MP. The build for this gun also remains unchanged. You might have forgotten this gun existed. Don't worry, I did too. The M4 LMG. It has received a buff increasing its lower arm multiplier from 1 to 1.1. What this means that it can kill in 4 shots in its second range, but it's very inconsistent, needing all 4 shots to hit the lower arms or chest, meaning hitting one stomach or shoulder will bring you back to a 5-shot kill. Same goes for the 3-tap, where you need 2 out of the 3 shots to be in the arms or chest to 3-tap, which is slightly more consistent than the aforementioned 4-tap, but it's still super unreliable. This buff makes the gun a bit stronger, but nothing too special still. Here's the build we recommend using for multiplayer. Brace yourself for a potential LMG meta this season, as the LMG category has received multiple buffs. The Bruen MK9. This already strong LMG has received another buff. Its chest multiplier has increased from 1 to 1.1, but practically it doesn't affect the gun much. Although this buff actually does allow the Bruen to 4-shot in its second range, the 4-shot is extremely inconsistent as it requires hitting 2 chest shots, which you can't guarantee due to the BSA and your enemy's lower arms, making this buff not that significant to the overall performance of the gun. Here is the build for it. The LMG once feared by all the player base, the Holger 26, is getting its once nerfed strafe speed increased by 11 milliseconds. This makes a slight difference to its mobility, but it doesn't increase its versatility, with other attachments like no stock making a stronger speed increase. This will allow it to compete with other flex LMGs such as the Hades and Bruen, but the MG42 being the MG42, it's gonna outperform it. Its mags also received a straight buff of 8%, making it a bit more competitive with ARs and having the full body disabled trait LMGs possess. Here's the build. One of the biggest winners of these balance changes, the Dingo, has received a seemingly minor buff to its stomach hitbox, going from 1 to 1.07. But this buff actually increases the 4-tap consistency in the second range by a lot, making it very consistent. This means that the Dingo can now consistently 4-shot kill up to 35 meters. It does remain a weapon that's hard to use due to its annoying horizontal recoil, but nonetheless, the buff will definitely make it a strong pick. This is the build we recommend you to use. Previously a weaker option to most other ARs, the BK57 got some buffs to its upper torso multipliers from 1 to 1.1. This change is really good since it makes its 15-meter 3-shot kill slightly consistent. Pairing this alongside with good BSA and low recoil, this gun has much more solid mid-range performance and serves as a great alternative pick to the Kilo 141. Here's the build for it. Next up is the good, but not good enough gun, the M13. This gun has received a new buff to its bullet impact going from 1.0 to 1.3. This buff might seem very small on paper, but it does have a strong impact on the gun, as its fire rate means it can make your enemies experience increased flinch, making this assault rifle much more effective against SMGs at range. This is the recommended build for this gun. The ASM-10 received a minor buff to its reload speed, but this buff is extremely tiny and nothing to write home about, since the reload speed pre-buff was still pretty fast. The build for this still remains unchanged. The HBR-A3 got a minor 10 millisecond reduction to its sprint to fire, but given the small magnitude of this change, you will likely both spot the difference. Here's the optimal build for multiplayer. The Echo's effectiveness was massively nerfed in Battle Royale. Its hipfire pellet spread rose from 156, 126 to 186, 156. It also can no longer recover recoil during hipfire. These nerfs drastically affect the gun, but it doesn't completely destroy the gun, since you can still shred enemies at hyper close range engagements, but a massive nerf nonetheless. Here's how you should build it for multiplayer and for Battle Royale. Havoc received some massive buffs this season with a reduced activation cost and significantly increased charge speed. These buffs are huge for this operator skill and therefore make it a much more viable operator skill to use, and will give you the room to strategically use it much more often in a single match, especially longer objective-centered game modes. The Equalizers, being a very high use rate operator, have gotten a nerf affecting their duration going from 30 seconds to 25 seconds. This will make it last a decent bit shorter and making you think before activating them in a bad position. The Ballistic Shield also got nerfed, with its ammo capacity being reduced from 40 rounds to 30 rounds. You cannot afford to miss as many shots anymore, since it can result from the overall effectiveness of the skill to go down drastically with every shot missed. The SAM turret now has a decreased activation score going from 660 to 620, making it a little easier to obtain and counter other score streaks with it, whereas the Cluster Strike instead got its activation score increased from 950 to 980. This may cause you to get this score streak a little less often. The Trip Sensor got a duration nerf from 30 seconds to 25 seconds. This nerf, in the grand scheme of things, does not affect this tactical much. It still keeps its original massive debuffs to movement speed and still disables sliding and jumping, which in the end keeps this tactical pretty much the same when looking at the big picture. The Molotov got a duration nerf from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. This nerf is decent, but not too massive. The Molotov still maintains the ability to block areas and deal continuous damage. It still remains a great pick for objective players. Concussion Grenade, one of the more powerful tactical nades, got a buff of AoE from 6 meters to 8 meters. This is a very significant buff, as the concussion already does a lot more than flash outside from the obscuring vision, and can be very effective in choke points to shred enemies. The Flash Drone got a buff to its AoE from 15 meters to 16 meters. This is fairly insignificant and wouldn't affect its position much in the meta. This has been Cry Saiku, going dark.